Earlier this year, I bought a Toyota 2GR V6 from a local junkyard, which I would describe as faulty.
That's a lot of power loss.
The junkyard would describe it as past the return date.
Like, I'm gonna try to put it to my warranty people, see what they did for you.
And ghost me. And many of you guys would describe the engine as totally fixable and worth salvaging. I still haven't been able to get in touch with the junkyard that sold me the faulty V6, but I'm not going to let that fact indefinitely delay the MR2 build. So, in this episode, we are going to be taking the 2GR all the way to Marc at Frankenstein Motorworks. We're going to find out just how faulty of an engine I was sold, and we're going to rebuild it and make it better than it ever was from Toyota. The only little wrinkle in that plan is Marc lives in Indiana, and right now we are in Central Virginia. So we're gonna kick things off with a little road trip. So I just got some head gaskets before I left town from Toyota. So now add this to the rest of the parts that we're gonna be taking up there, including the engine, and hit the road. Now you might be thinking, Ben, didn't you say at the end of the last episode that you were going to just get another 2GR that doesn't have all these problems? And that's true, I did say that. And the rationale behind that is I want to, in this big engine swap with all of these variables that are going into it, I want to have one thing that I can rely on for sure, and that is the surefire bet of a sealed engine from Toyota. But then I got to thinking, why not just simplify everything, streamline everything, do all the mods that I was eventually planning on doing anyways to this motor all at once. Right now we are passing into, oh, would you look at that? It's Ohio. Welcome to the heart of it all. Welcome to Indiana. The next morning, bright and early, I arrive at Marc's home garage and we begin unloading the 2GR engine.
All right, you're good. All right, that's all you need to do.
Marc, it seems like I always come and visit you with some kind of absolute disaster.
You know, I don't think this thing's actually broken though. I think it just needs a little love. We should be good.
Yeah, okay, so my junkyard engine failed a leak down, had some interesting looking stuff in the oil pan.
Yeah, you had a bit of milkshake.
Yeah.
Which, that concerns me. That kind of thing happens when it's running, so that water was probably in there while it was running.
So what are you concerned about, like, as we start digging into this?
My only concern really is gonna be rust in the bores. For as much luck as I have with these engines, you seem to have bad luck with them.
Taken all the luck.
I take these things endurance racing and I have no issues, so I don't know. I don't know what your problem has been. We're gonna have to refinish the valve seats, so I'm expecting all of the exhaust valve seats to be in poor condition. As far as like the pistons and the rings and whatnot, those we're all gonna be replacing. Since you're here, we're gonna go higher compression. Rusty bores is gonna be the big thing that's gonna get us.
All right, so this is our first look at the rotating assembly.
So far, so good. I'm happy with this so far. If you've got rusty bores, I will hone this block eventually, but I will hand you a different block.
Okay, we've got some backups.
Yeah, we've got plenty of backups. I think there's about 6 of them in here that are in usable shape. Oh yeah, we're missing a couple parts. Well, this is why it's not working.
Yeah.
There's a sticky spot right there. Right here.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but we might see like a ring. I don't know. We got to pop the heads off and we'll find out soon enough.
What's this godforsaken socket that you've got on the wrench here?
This is a bihex. So it's slightly different angles, but if you don't have this particular tool, you'll end up stripping out these bolts. So.
Do they use this on any other part of the engine?
No. The 2AR and the 2GR both use this. I don't know how common this is, but I know this is an easy mistake for a lot of people to make, is to not have the bihex. Now it's time to see the damage action. We're gonna pop the heads off and we'll finally get the story on this motor. Let's take a look. So initial impressions are actually good. That's really not a lot of carbon, and they're about the same. We'll have to pull the valves out to check out the valve seats, but honestly, initial impressions are really good. We'll have to check below the piston lines, but so far, I like everything I'm seeing. Even right here, where there's often a lot of corrosion that actually ends up lifting the head. This is why sometimes they leak coolant, by the way, is you get corrosion here. Because the seal is not fully on the outside, these areas where there's no seal, salt gets in there and corrodes the aluminum and lifts the head a little bit. I was expecting to see a lot worse than this. So far, super excited.
On this side, the center cylinder failed the leak down.
Okay.
On this side, all cylinders failed.
Everything here looks, at first glance, looks good. It's definitely a low mileage motor.
Any inkling why it would fail leak down?
We'll have a better idea once we pull the exhaust valves out.
Okay.
I was expecting to see a lot more carbon in here.
Yeah.
For the problem you're talking about.
Right.
Right here, all this stuff, I expect to see, like, as bad as it is here, that's as good as it gets. Like, it's that bad everywhere, including at the top of the combustion chamber. All right, let's get the pistons out and see what that shows us. That's interesting. I have never seen that coating flake off like that. But I'm not worried about that because we're putting new pistons in. Same thing. It's on the same side, and that's not even the thrust side. So the thrust side, when you're in a power stroke, it's pushing that way, and it's on that side of the piston that's worn off. I don't know. It's a mystery. Not this one. Yeah, so on this one, the 1 and 2 compression were aligned, which is not ideal, but it's not a big deal. And the oil control ring kind of lost the spring. It's probably still springy, but it's stuck. Let's check the other ones, actually. That oil control ring is stuck again. So this engine had to be burning oil because all of the oil control rings are stuck.
So you're telling me that a 65,000 mile Toyota engine was burning oil?
Well, yeah, it might have gotten one oil change its entire life, or maybe 0. This looks beautiful. Unless you feel strongly about it, I'm not even gonna pull the crank. Ben, these bores are perfect. I mean, they got some miles on them, but no, that's perfect. So this is the top half of the rod bearing for number 4. So if there's no oil or bad oiling, this should be showing wear. And no, we're gonna reuse these. This is basically factory new. I'm not seeing anything here that looks like a single pattern. I can't explain what's happening here. Yeah. But what I can say is that so far, I think we'll be able to reuse this whole motor. We just need to fix the valve seats, probably. So you can see a tiny bit on the surface there that the carbon was getting to it, but I don't know why that engine was leaking as much air as it is, because I'm not seeing it. You sure you brought me the same engine? This isn't going to take much work to make perfect.
Well, everyone's going to tell you to port it. We got to port the heads. We got to do everything.
Yeah, but we don't have a flow bench, so we're not going to port the heads. We're going to clean up the heads. This head is straight, so our number 2 head, we're good to go after we fix the valve seats. a little extra light over here, but it's less than 2 thousandths, which is what the factory spec is. And it's probably gonna be better once it's cleaned anyways. We're good. Most of the engine you're gonna leave with is the engine you came with, so fantastic. Ben, since you did bring the motor here, one of the things we're gonna do is I've got these 2GR FXE pistons. So this is what's normally in your motor, the FE. And as you can see, this it's a little higher in here. So this has higher compression. But the downside is these valve pockets, it's not super visible, but they're actually a little bit shallower. They're actually about 2 millimeters shallower. We're gonna cut these down so that we can run the high compression pistons and be able to actually advance the intake cam just a little bit more and retard the exhaust cam just a little bit more, get a little bit more mid-range power. It'll make the same top end, but why not give you extra mid-range?
Now, are we going to be cutting these by hands? Because I've got pretty steady hands. I think I could probably do that.
No. I've got a CNC machine, CNC mill, and I've made some fixtures and whatnot to hold these precisely. Right now, I'm just starting with a piston that we don't care about. This is an FE piston. And there's a lot of these features on these pistons that are cast, so we can't directly measure it. So some of it just comes down to putting the machine close and then cutting and testing and cutting and testing.
What I'm skipping over here is a significant amount of setup time, as well as rounds of trial and error with these test pistons before Marc got the CNC mill dialed in how he wanted.
Now we're going to go test this on the engine, make sure that this is at the right place, potentially make adjustments before we cut all of the exhaust valves on all the other ones. The number we need with clearance is 7.78 millimeters. We are happy. Everything fits exactly as I want it to. So now, because we have to make left and right banks, I'm going to go ahead and set these out and label them, because otherwise I know that we're going to end up with 6 lefts and no rights. Welcome to day 2. So today we have our intake pockets to cut.
So does doing this on the swap necessitate that you own a CNC machine in order to do FXE pistons?
What we are doing is what you would very much call extra. This is totally not needed to get the 350 wheel horsepower. This is probably going to pick us up 10 to 15 wheel horsepower around 4,000 RPM. Building engines is a lot of assembly, disassembly, assembly, disassembly, assembly. So we can see it was sitting here, which is exactly where we want it to sit. We can see that the piston is tilted a bit more on the mill than really the head direction goes, but I'm perfectly happy with that. So let's check the depth now by taking this clay out and see how much deeper we need to go. So the FXE pistons start at about 4¼ millimeters. It's called free drop, which is this distance. Piston at TDC, how far can the valve go down? And we're aiming for about 6¼ millimeters. A little bit less, and we can adjust the amount of angle that we're going to add to the intake phaser, depending on how that looks when we get to that depth. But yeah, about 6¼ millimeters is what we're aiming for. 66 thousandths. So I was off by 16 thousandths. We need to cut 66 more, but I thought we needed to cut 50 more. And that should be the pistons we need for your motor. Let's go do one final check before we cut the other ones, and hopefully we're good to go. In theory, we've got all of our depths correct now. We just need to machine all of the pistons and then check them all in the engine. I'm happy with that, and also we can see the 2 eject marks are just barely there, so we know that we machined to the exact same location as the previous piston. Our full set of 6 pistons now, and I'm super happy with how they came out. We're going to put them all in the engine now and verify all the valve clearances just to double check. Everything should be good, but then it's going to be time to assemble the engine. this point, the rotating assembly is completely assembled. As far as I know, it's going to stay completely assembled, but we're going to go ahead and double check all of the valve clearances on each one of the cylinders individually before fully committing to that. So cutting the pistons added probably about 6, maybe even 8 hours to the process. But I'm really looking forward to seeing, because right now that mid-range is missing a little bit with those cams because the intakes don't have enough clearance. So I'm looking forward to seeing probably 15, 20 wheel horsepower added in the mid-range. It should really help the motor out. We've checked all of the valves, so all of our piston cutouts are good enough. Let's take the heads off at this point, and it's time to clean up those valve seats. You know, the whole reason we started this to begin with. Sorry about the bad audio right now. It's practically flood season out there. But right now, let's see, I'm debating if we just lap the valves in or if we try to cut them at all first. I think we're gonna cut them just a tiny little bit and then lap them in. That mandrel just makes sure that whatever we cut is perfectly in line with where the valve's gonna sit. Then we've got these carbide teeth right here. Put this on, apply just a little bit of pressure and spin it around. And this is not a perfect valve seat, but it's a valve seat that will be perfect once we lap it in. Since the seats are so close to good enough right now, I'm not even going to bother doing the 2 other angles around it. I'm just redoing the 46-degree seat. So these are the important seats right here, the exhaust valve seats. We'll still give them 2 rotations and take a look. You can see actually it didn't fully clean up. So yeah, they weren't quite as straight, but it's definitely going to clean up with just another rotation. Once we lap that in, it'll be perfect. We just need to repeat that 23 more times.
We have valves installed in heads. And what are we doing now, Mark?
Well, we've got head gaskets, so it's time to put them on and install the heads and leave them on this time. "15 foot-pounds all the way around, 30 foot-pounds all the way around, and then 90 degrees, and then 90 degrees again."
Moment of truth. It's going to leak through the rings. So the bottom end.
Yes, it will leak through the rings, especially if we leave it pressurized for a while. It will eventually work that oil out and leak through the rings.
But like if it comes out the exhaust valves, or the exhaust valves.
Yeah, we shouldn't be able to feel anything here.
That's extremely good.
Yeah, I'm hearing just a tiny bit past the rings.
Okay, so that's good. Ah.
Yeah, I'm hearing nothing.
Excellent.
Nothing.
That might be the best valve seal I've ever seen.
This one is not perfect. All right, I'm happy. Could it be better? Yes, but it is definitely good enough. This is the 2GR's intake phasers. This is what allows from the installed position to advance up to 45 degrees. This right here is the position that it starts in when the motor starts, and then it puts hydraulic pressure here, here, and here to cause this to move. And the cam is attached to this, and then the actual sprocket that holds the timing chain is attached to the outside of this, so that moves the cam relative to the timing chain. They designed this phaser for 60 degrees, but then they only made it move 45 degrees. So we're going to take this lobe right here, and we're going to machine it, essentially shortening this part of it, which will give us the extra 15 degrees of motion that we needed, which is what we added the clearance to the pistons for, to be able to move them further. We are installing the Frankenstein Motorworks camshafts. On the exhaust, we're using the alternate pin position to be able to offset it by 15 degrees.
And that's basically what we're able to do that because we did all the machining on the piston and the
That's
phasers.
correct. That's correct. These cams are designed to work with FXE as well as FE pistons. You would install them straight up, exactly as the factory says, with the pins in the correct position. That's what you would use with FXE or FE pistons normally.
Marc installs all the cams as one with the cam carrier, and again uses Valvoline engine oil as a lubricant for the carrier bolts to ensure even torque across the surface. Then it's time to time.
Because we moved to the different pin position, we have to use the opposite tooth to what it's calling for. So I'm just using a paint marker so that it's easier to tell.
Just for full transparency, timing did not go this smoothly in real life. We had to install, check, disassemble, reassemble, all the kinds of things that aren't expected but inevitably happen. Just letting you know so that you don't get automotive dysmorphia. From here, it was just the buttoning up process. The timing covers, valve covers, pulleys all got torqued, the windage tray went back in with the upper and lower oil pans, and the engine got generally all sealed up. High compression pistons, modified cam phasers, and upgraded camshafts are all now in their homes. Now, it's time for some bling.
The motor's back together now, so we're essentially right back at the starting point, except it's got big cams now, it's got high compression pistons, cut pistons, so we can run even more advanced, and yeah. Now it's time to
Spirited driving modification debut!
Nani? Frankenstein motorwork tosi casto stainless steel exhaust manifold low profile design.
And now we need to get the air into the motor, and we really want that to sing, so we're going to use
Built速度スタックインテックマニホールドインテグレーテッドによれる本当に美しい
I thought this only happened in your shop. So this is the Frankenstein Motorworks intake manifold. This really helps get the tuned runner length here so we can get some resonance in the intake, really build some naturally aspirated power.
You designed this?
Yes, not only that, this part here is actually machined in-house. This is machined up in Fort Wayne because I don't have a 5-axis here, but some of this actually machined in-house. This part here was one of the keys to making big power in the 2GR. The factory intake manifold ends up kind of running out of breath around 300 wheel horsepower. This really helps get a lot more air in there, helps the air ring and actually get a supercharging effect with it.
So one of the few parts that's going onto this engine that Marc didn't make is actually this, which is a carbon plenum.
So this is just the bolt pattern from the Holley high ram, which then makes it so that you can use all kinds of things that are on the market. There's also intercoolers and all kinds of things that you can put on there.
That's awesome.
A lot of people recognize the Holley high ram. I have had a lot of people ask me if there's an LS in my car. Personally, that's a downside as far as I'm concerned, but you might see it as an upside, I don't know.
All of this started because I got an engine that was failing leak down tests and had a worrying substance in the oil pan. I wanted to get the engine replaced, but ultimately I was outside of the return period, and the company warranting the engine, a time frame I was still inside, never got back to me. A lot of people were telling me to call out the company who sold me this engine, but ultimately, if I'd done that and then disassembled the engine to find, well, everything looks okay, I probably would have felt pretty silly. And I would have said something untrue about that company. The company I purchased the engine from is Cunningham Brothers here in Virginia. Please don't message them anything trying to defend my honor or insult them for giving me poor customer service. I should have done a leak down test first thing upon purchasing this engine, so all things considered, this was a valuable learning experience for me. But they did not sell me a bum engine. The 2GR almost definitely would have run if we'd put it in the car and fired it up, but there's too much risk for me to do that when it's failing a leak down test. The engine looked fantastic inside though, as Marc said, so I cannot tell you that they sold me an engine that doesn't work. Will I be buying anything from them again? Probably not, unless I'm really in a pinch, but that's just because the customer service was really poor. I'm still waiting for them to email me back like they said they would. They're never emailing me back. But I don't have time to worry about that because next episode, we're putting the 2GR in the MR2.
That's very nice.
So for this cutting operation, we're going to be using my CNC mill. It's just a Haas TM1 from 2003. Nothing too fancy, but it's really helped what I can do in this shop.
Yeah, nothing too fancy. This is, you know,
It isn't anything too fancy.
the normal type of CNC mill that you would see in, you know, your average enthusiast garage.
Yes, yes it is.
Yeah, it's a little less fancy than my CNC mill, but we've all got to start somewhere, Marc.
Carbon fiber. Carbon fiber. Carbon fiber.
That's it, I've had enough. Give me that. Zip up your shirt. This is a carbon plenum. Either buy one or don't.
Carbon fiber?
And you quiet.
ごめんなさい.
Put this on. Hurry up. Turn off that smoke machine. I should have gone to work for Speed Academy.